Hello everybody, it's that time of month again, time for another garden vlog. I've been doing them every 2 weeks, so let's get started. It's Saturday, June the 12th we'll call it. Okay, first off, the tomatoes continue to look very good. I've been very aggressive this year on trying to, there's a good cat. Yeah, I got distracted. Hey Carly! Anyhow, yeah, they're getting like a lot bigger. I've been very aggressive on trying to not do anything that would promote blights here this year. As you know, I spaced them really far apart and made sure that they'd all have good air circulation, and one plant wouldn't be blocking the other. And I've been more aggressive than usual about cutting off the bottom limb, the bottom leaves, branches, whatever, limbs. And yeah, they're growing. They're a whole lot bigger than they were 2 weeks ago. This is what they would look like 2 weeks ago. And here's what they look like today. Got a few blooms, and I know on one of them I got a tomato here somewhere. Yes, I do have a couple of tomatoes right there. So, and them are not very big, as you can see, just like that. Okay, so anyhow, the tomato plants are looking great. The other things I've been doing to them, okay, I spaced them good far apart. I've been cutting the branches, and I know in times past I've overwatered them. And yes, I know you're not supposed to water them from the top. I've always watered them from the bottom so the leaves wouldn't get wet. But, you know, I never really kept up with how much I watered them that good. Kind of the old standard on the garden is that your garden's supposed to have an inch a week of rain. So what I've been doing here on the tomatoes, if it doesn't rain too much, or which has been raining very little, I come out here, and unless the tomatoes are droopy, I'm just going to water them once a week. I'm going to water them really well once a week, and that's it. So they're due for watering in 2 days, and as you can see, they're not droopy, so apparently that's enough. Now on to the peppers. What are you doing there, girl? My goodness. You just think I'm not paying any attention to you, don't you? You just think I'm not paying any attention to you. Goodness gracious. People used to never see you, and now they see you quite a bit, it seems like. Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Carly's just a gorgeous cat. She's the prom queen of the bunch. Ain't she, girl? Ain't she the prom queen of the bunch? Huh? Boo, boo, boo. Anyway, on to the peppers, which continue to grow extremely well. What I've done here, and of course I've mentioned this before, but these are just the same cage that I use on the tomatoes. I just cut them in half for the peppers. And last year I had a lot of trouble with my plants. You know, I put 4 plants inside of each tomato cage. And last year I had a big problem with limbs breaking out of my peppers because I would have one, usually they'll grow kind of all at the same rate and hold each other up. Well, if you have one plant that dies, which I did on a couple of my cages last year, that just throws everything out of kilter, because that plant will kind of fall over, and that plant will fall over, and maybe even that plant will fall over, because you got a big void here where the one's not doing its job. So this year I went, well, I already had these last year, but I just didn't utilize them. You get these like at any garden center. People use them on their flowers and stuff, and I just you know, run a section of it like that and a section of it like that and tied it off. They do have these hooks, you know, like so, but I had to kind of break these sections apart. The way they come wasn't in the kind of like the amount of sections I needed. But anyway, on the part that doesn't have a hook, I just took clothesline wire and just wired it to the side of the cage, and I expect that to really do a great job, I believe. And see, I had one extra one here I put on the side, and on these other sides I didn't have any extra ones, so I just run clothesline from here to here. But yeah, this is my biggest one, I think. This is the Cubanelle, and this is what it looks like today. It's hard to get any scale now, it's getting so big. And this is what it looked like 2 weeks ago. The cucumbers are just really doing good. 2 weeks ago, and here's what they look like today. I probably ought to go through and on this side just trim them off so they won't be growing out into the grass or anything, but a glutton for punishment that I am, I hate losing that many cucumbers, so I probably will let them grow all the way to the grass and then clip them off so I can mow the grass. Hey there, little girl, little snoozers. Hey, little snoozers, what you doing? You're a good girl. And I do have blooms in here. Let's see, yeah, blooms. There's a bloom right there, there's a bloom. Yeah, I hear you, Susie, you're more important than the bloom. I know. Cats are like this because they can come out here and visit me in the garden when they get a little bigger, and they'll be growing up on the fence and they'll have shade. Because when the cats don't come out here, it's because there's just no shade. Squash plants in the main look good. You see I've got 2 squash plants right here and only 1 right here because I lost one. I came out here one day, you know, squash plants in the middle of a day have a tendency, they just kind of droop down. And I had one that was extra droopy for several days. And then I come out here and it was just dead. And I fooled around with it and it just broke off right at the ground. So maybe it was a squash vine borer, I don't know for sure. Yeah, I've got squash starting. And somebody left in my comments here a while back, the first few squash they've had wasn't very high quality. It sort of rots either here or whatever. And that does happen though. When your squash plants are young, when they're just starting to produce, it's not unusual to have to throw away the first, at least half a dozen squash that come on each plant. And then later on, it just seems to straighten out. I don't know why that is, but it is. So, yeah, and there's the 1 squash plant, and then there's the 2, 2 weeks ago. And here's what they look like today. The squash vine borer, just in case anybody's interested, there's a little, it looks almost like a wasp. I mean, if you didn't know any better, you would swear that it was a wasp, but really it's a type of moth. And they lay their eggs, they come in here and they lay their eggs right there. And, the larvae hatch out and just start munching on things and just kill a squash plant. But I really never have had much trouble with it. What are you doing? Man, I have got all kind of company out here today, don't I? Huh? Goodness, yeah, I hear you. Okay, and here's a good overview of the wild strawberry plants that are proven to be just a bust. As you can see, there's just hundreds and hundreds of little yellow blooms on them suckers. Zoom in here really good. Just look at that. Just look at those blooms. And yet, not one single strawberry. Look at all the buds and all there that's gonna be blooming out. And all the blooms that have bloomed out. And here's what my secondary crop of cucumbers look like today. And here's what they looked like 2 weeks ago. And back to today. So as you can see, they're doing really well. The secondary crop don't seem like they ever do quite as good as the first crop does. I guess, to everything there is a season, and when you plant stuff a little late, even though the growing conditions seem right and all, sometimes it just doesn't do quite as well as you think it should. But I do expect to have some cucumbers off of these. We'll see. Right here I got a gap in them, and that wasn't because the plants didn't do good or anything. It's just that something came through here and eat that section. As you can see, they kind of just quit eating when they got to right there. So, yep, don't know what that was. Okay, here's a bit of trivia. Well, no, Susie's not involved in the trivia. Yeah, I'm here. I'm here, girl. I'm here. It's okay. I'm not going to leave you. It's okay. Anyhow, you see these two bushes here that are above my garden. There's two of them, which is why I said there was two to start with. Anyway, there's a huge one there, and then there's a big, huge one there. And I just love those bushes, and they just really, you know, complement the setting here, we'll say. And I just love them. And I've got one other one that's right behind the fish pond. And I'll just show you what happened to that one behind the fish pond this winter. Okay, here's what my big bush near the fish pond looks like. Yeah, as you can see, it's sustained quite a bit of damage, which really is pretty much irreparable. That happened last winter in the first big snowstorm we had. It just couldn't handle that much weight. I'll get a closer up view of it here in a second. As you can see, it looks pretty bad here. And when you look down at the bottom of it, and the core of it, you can see how big it has splayed out here. And there's really not much you could do except just chainsaw all that off. That on the right there is really split off. I might pick one branch of it, like that one right there maybe, if I can get to it soon enough, and cut everything else off right at the ground and leave that one, and it'll look like bloody hell for a couple of years. But there's a chance it might bush back out from that one, and then, you know, heal up there at the bottom where I make the chainsaw cuts. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'll show it here sometime after it gets all cut up here someday. And thus ends today's garden tour. See you guys again in 2 weeks.